Broadcast is live.
All right, we're live this morning on Facebook. Joining us, I'm Deanna Lambert with the Community Relations Department here at the City of Brentwood, and Kirk Bednar, our city manager, who has been so very busy at work over the past few weeks. Hi, Kirk.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody.
Hi. So we are quizzing Mr. Bednar this morning about the reopening or possibility of reopening Brentwood here in the future and what that looks like. We know we've been watching social media and the papers this morning, and Nashville has released their plan. And Kirk, just kind of guide us through what is Brentwood doing to kind of develop this plan?
Sure. And I think first and foremost, it's important for people to understand that right now, we're not anticipating that there would be a Brentwood specific plan. The anticipation is that the governor's plan will be out. I know he announced earlier this week the reopening. It's with some things reopening starting Monday the 27th, and then the rest of his order expiring May 1st. And I think that probably some people may have been confused by that, thinking that it was just going to kind of be everything's back to normal at that date and time. And I don't believe that that's the intention at all. I know there's a group of people, a large group of people, that the governor has tasked to put together kind of a reopening plan. We expect that'll be a phased plan, and it'll have certain guidelines and guidance for different industries, restaurants, gyms, retail establishments. And so I think we're waiting to see the details of that plan. And our expectation is it'll be that plan that will govern what we do here in Brentwood.
Exactly. And Julie is on the line, and she is asking what phase hair salons are in. And she's referencing that Davidson County has us in phase 2 and 3. I know everyone is eager to get back and get their hair done. Julie, I hear you. But that is part of what Mr. Bednar is talking about, is that we are actually going to be following the state's plan for that. And so that is the guidance that we are waiting to hear from Governor Lee here in the next hopefully day or so. Right, Kirk?
Exactly. And again, I just literally a few minutes ago before we went live finished reading the Nashville plan. And I commend Mayor Cooper and his folks. It's very detailed. I think it's very clear, and I think it's very reasonable. But as far as the details of any specific industry or business and where it falls and what guidelines there might be for it, again, in Brentwood, we don't have that. We're waiting to see what the governor comes out with.
Yeah. And so we were speaking with our city commission, our mayor, vice mayor, and everyone this morning about kind of the direction of things in the future. And I know this department is in charge of summer concerts. And so that was a part of our discussion, correct?
Yeah, we discussed our summer concerts, which, this being the end of April, our first one really is the end of May, and then the 1st of June. And I think the consensus we got out of that discussion with the governing body was probably those first couple of concerts, May 31st, and I think June 7th, we probably need to look at canceling and potentially rescheduling if the allowance is there. And the rest of our summer concert series, which is later in June, and then our July events, we're kind of tentatively keeping on the schedule, but obviously they're all kind of subject to reconsideration as things develop and the health trends and the phasing of reopening and how that goes. So it's like a lot of things in life these days, for most people, it really is no long-term planning. It's a week-to-week process for us. And again, we'll deal with the most current ones coming up, and then the later ones, I think, will hold out some hope, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Indeed. This is kind of a new normal we've gotten used to for the past several weeks, and we appreciate everyone's comments on here. Let's see. Jonathan is asking about when small businesses get help from the government. We actually have a lot of resources about this on our COVID-19 page on our website. So a lot of that small business help is kind of the guidance is set from a federal level, so you can find information there.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say if you're in Williamson County, I would also follow Williamson Inc., the Countywide Chamber of Commerce. I know they're trying to facilitate a lot of those services. We don't really do a lot of that directly from the city of Brentwood. We just don't have an operation that does that. We would rely on the Chamber of Commerce to help businesses in doing that. But I know there's a lot of federal money that's come down already, some of the PPE loans and all that, and some additional funds approved. But there is additional federal funding coming to the state of Tennessee, and the state is still working through the plans of how that's going to be distributed and utilized.
Yeah, and once we do kind of start reopening, do you suggest following the CDC guidelines as far as remaining, wearing a face mask, keeping social distancing in place. That's going to be key to this, correct?
I think that's going to be a standard within the plan. If you look at Nashville's plan, each of those phases kind of has that as a caveat for all the phases. I think the folks who are more susceptible to issues, the people over age 65 or who've got some underlying health conditions, I think they're always going to be encouraged for quite a bit of time yet to stay at home as much as possible, limit their exposure. I would expect, wearing a mask outside, I know is being encouraged. I know in other places of the country it's almost being required. I don't foresee that being here, but I think anybody who has any concerns about that should do all that they can for their own sake, whether that's still limiting their time out of the home, wearing the mask, and just general social distancing. The kind of the 6-foot standard, I think, is going to be with us for many months to come. And obviously that's easier to do in some settings than others. But that is going to be the new norm, I think, for quite a while.
Yeah. And we'll take one more question here. Chris Cummins, our friend from Brentwood, is asking.
Oh, Chris Cummins.
He's one of our volunteers here at the city. How do you expect the quarantine to affect the city budget? And that is a very timely question, Chris, as we are finishing up the budget this week, correct?
Literally today, put in the finishing touches on the budget, do a little more, and then it'll go to the printer here in the next few days. So that's a great question, probably longer than what we've got the interest in listening to. But bottom line is it will affect us. Obviously, sales tax will be down for the next few months. Hotel motel taxes will be down. For this fiscal year, our fiscal year is a July 1 to June 30th year. So it happened at a point in the fiscal year where we are so far into it that this current fiscal year will be fine. We'll meet our budget numbers. We budget usually some excess revenue for some capital needs. We probably won't have as much excess revenue, but I would expect we'll see a loss in these last 3 months of the fiscal year of a $2 to $3 million loss of revenue. But again, we budget fairly conservatively, so that won't mean any drastic cuts to the city budget. Now, going forward to next year, July 1 new fiscal year, that's a little bit of a different story in that there is so much uncertainty and unknown at this point in time. When we won't even really know the sales tax impact of what's happened in March and April until May or June, and we've got to adopt a budget in June. So we've had to take the approach of being ultra conservative in our budget. We won't be able to include salary adjustments for our employees at the beginning of the year, which I know will be a letdown for folks. But obviously, if things turn around, we hope to be able to maybe address that in the middle of the year if the economic rebound is fairly quick. Very limited. We're proposing, I think, only one new staff position. We've got a new building we're opening, a new police headquarters later on in next fiscal year. So we've got some needs there we'll have to include in the budget. But otherwise, the very small, probably 1% increase in our overall budget. And again, most of that's going to be related to some contractual increases in different services and systems we have. And again, just some things we don't have an option in. Otherwise, we're trying to keep status quo with everything else. And again, the hope is that we have a gradual reopening here in the next month to two. We don't have any slip backwards in terms of the health cases, and we can continue that reopening, and that by July or August, we're back to, again, probably not the same normal, but a reasonable new normal in terms of economic activity, and we'll see things bounce back fairly quickly. They won't go back to where they were originally, but we would like to think that we'll be back to something reasonable in our budget by the middle of the year, and then we'll reassess everything. And if there are some things we cut out and we're seeing strong revenue trends, we'll try to adjust those, and we can always amend the budget mid-year.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate your time here on this lunchtime session. And, going forward, this may be something that we do often. We've had a lot of comments, and we thank those people who joined in, and be sure to let us know here what you're curious in. We'll have maybe our police chief and our fire chief on here soon, director of parks, to keep you informed about what all is happening in the community. So thank you, Kirk.
Right. Thanks, Deanna.